I'm Brian Sasser, KPRC TV here in Houston. We had heard some reports that during launch there had been some concerns that some debris hit the wing. Is that true, and is that any cause of concern that could have caused today's problems?
It is true that right after launch, and I don't remember the time frame as far as seconds, there was a piece of foam that is used as insulation on the external tank in the area of what we call the bipod, which is the forward attach between the orbiter and the external tank. There is a piece of foam that was shed, and in our review the following day of the launch films, we saw this piece of debris drop off, and it looked to us like it impacted the orbiter on the left wing. Where on the left wing, it's very difficult for us to tell. Somewhere between the mid and outward span. Was it the leading edge? We don't know. Was it underneath the leading edge? We really don't know. To the best of our ability, that's what happened. We spent a goodly amount of time reviewing that film and then analyzing what that potential impact of debris on the wing might do, and would there be any consequences. Through analysis and through our ability to call back on our experience with tile, it was judged that that event did not represent a safety concern. And so the technical community got together and across the country looked at it and judged that to be acceptable. And so as we look at that now in hindsight, that impact was on the left wing. And certainly we have all the indications that Milt talked to you about were on the left wing. We can't discount that there might be a connection. But we have to caution you and ourselves that we can't rush to judgment on it, because there are a lot of things in this business that look like the smoking gun but turn out not even to be close. And so we really have to do some regression analysis. We've got to look at what Milt described to you, and then back up in time through analysis to see if we can piece together the events and whether or not this was a tile problem or whether it was a structural issue or some other event. We don't know yet. What will help us determine that is inspecting the debris. That will really help us. And so we're very anxious to get certain pieces back to look at, and that will determine whether or not this particular event, whether it was the debris hitting the orbiter or some other event, was the cause of this problem or this disaster today.
Yes, this is Marcia Dunn of the Associated Press. Ron, I have a written report from earlier in this flight that there was a potential for a large damage area to the tile, and given that, I'm wondering how and why was it deemed minor by NASA? And do you have any idea how much of a damage area may have been left on the left wing and how big that piece of foam was that came off?
We have a pretty good idea how big the size of foam was. What we don't understand very well was what the actual impact did to the tile. And so we have to use our analysis and our engineering expertise to help us understand how a piece of foam of certain weight and density impacting the wing at certain velocity, what it does to the tile. And our experts gathered together, and we have people in this system that have worked on these tiles since the beginning of the program, and we understand how the tiles function, we understand the tile's ability to withstand damage, we understand the thermal characteristics of the tile both on the surface of the tile and at the base of the tile. And as we got together and reviewed this information, we were convinced technically and analytically that the tile would not, the impact of the debris on the tile would not represent a safety of flight issue. In fact, we were anxious to come back and get the handheld film that the crew takes as soon as they get to orbit of the external tank. As it's moving away, we asked them to take pictures of the external tank so we can understand exactly where the foam was shed from the tank. And we were anxious to get that piece of information because we felt that we needed to analyze it so that it would not occur on future flights. We have a flight readiness review coming up for the next flight. It was scheduled for February the 20th, and we knew we had some technical work to do to make sure that we understood why this piece of debris came off. We were not concerned with Columbia. We felt we had analyzed that, and we felt we understood it such that it was not a thermal concern to us, did not represent a control issue or a safety of flight issue. And I'm going to caution you that that is the case today. We have no information that would say that is not the case. We are going to go look at it again to see if there is a connection between what Milt talked to you about and the fact that we had a debris impact on the tile. And there's some other things we need to go look at. The tile is just one. And so we were satisfied that we did the proper work. And across the community, our safety, our quality, our crew members, our flight controllers, and the program management reviewed the technical analysis and agreed to a person that it was not an impact to this flight. So we need to go back and look at that, of course, but that's the events as they unfolded.
Adler from Florida today. I'm sorry to ask another question about the external tank, but has this happened before? Has foam come off the tank? Has it impacted the shuttle? And what were the consequences that you saw?
We had an event on STS-112 just several flights ago where a piece of debris from the same general area was shed by the tank. And this particular debris, and I can't tell you today whether it's of the same general size, but it came from the same general area, and it impacted the aft skirt on one of the boosters. Superficial damage occurred. When we got the booster back in port and looked at it, evaluated it, reviewed it technically, discussed it at the following flight readiness review, which was STS-13. We as an agency, as a shuttle program, decided that that did not represent a technical safety risk to us. We have from time to time debris. Ice can come off the tank. Frost, pieces of debris, and they impact the bottom of the vehicle. Several years ago, we had a problem where during the launch phase, we were popcorning pieces of this insulation on the tile. It would effectively reach a certain point in ascent, and it would popcorn out and impact the bottom of the vehicle, and it would cause damage to the tile, but not damage that was a concern from a safety standpoint, damage that when we got back we had to repair or maybe replace a tile. We have subsequently fixed that problem, and as we were looking at this particular problem of debris shedding in this one bipod region on STS-112, we said, well, we've got an area that we need to fix, and we have a turnaround discussion, but not a safety of flight issue. We flew STS-113. We didn't shed any external tank debris. On STS-107, as we looked at the films on the following day, we saw the same type of debris being shed from the same location. In this case, it didn't impact the booster. It impacted the left wing. So again, 2 occurrences in the last 3 flights is certainly the signal to our team that something has changed. It did not represent, on the first occasion, an alarm from a safety point of view. It represented a turnaround processing issue. As we go forward in our investigation, we're certainly going to look in this area and determine whether or not this was a contributor to the loss of Columbia and the loss of the crew.
This is Mike Cabbage with the Orlando Sentinel. Ron, could you talk a little about who all and what all was involved in the analysis of the tile issue after launch? Did you ever give any thought to using telescopes to look for signs of damage to the orbiter? And if you had detected extensive damage to the TPS, is there anything you could have done with the angle of attack or anything else during re-entry to have reduced stress on that part of the vehicle?
The easy part of that question is there's nothing that we can do about tile damage once we get to orbit. We can't minimize the heating to the point that it would somehow not require a tile. And so once you get to orbit, you're there and you have your tile insulation, and that's all you have for protection on the way home from the extreme thermal heating during re-entry. We have experience in the past of having events that have occurred that we have assessed using other assets to maybe get a close-up look at the bottom of the orbiter. Recall a year or two ago we lost the drag chute door right at liftoff. It fell off, and we actually tried to take some pictures of the back end of the vehicle to see what was really there so that we can understand our thermal heating in that case. And those pictures that we received were not very useful to us. So that was part of our background. Combine that, our feeling that we didn't believe the pictures would be very useful to us, with the fact that there was not much, there was zero that we could do about it. And in this case, we elected not even to take the pictures. We believed that our technical analysis was sufficient. We couldn't do anything about it anyway. We were in the best possible position, and so we elected not to take any pictures from any other sources, and that's the way that played out.